I thought I'd put my LEGs on.
My wood, my rules.
Really? Does it cost 7p to charge one of these?
Is this the right tool for commercial hazel coppice? I tell you what, this thing is unbelievable. Ayup Woodlanders, dressed ready for action this morning. I've got just a tiny little bit more hazel coppice cutting to do. This is in our own small patch of woodland. The hazel buds are swelling ready for explosion, and I'm thinking, man, we better get moving with this hazel cut. There's not a lot to do. So you see, it's not massive, and it's only really for hazel hurdle production. This is not beanpole stuff. I'll just show you this. I bought this months and months ago on a whim, really. Somebody was on about they'd got a still one and they use it for pruning in their garden, and I thought, oh, I wonder if Makita do one, and they did. I already have these Makita batteries, I don't have still battery stuff, and I thought, well, for the price it was fairly reasonable. Oh, I can just click one of my batteries in, give it a whirl and see whether, and this really is possibly taking it a bit too far, could this kind of thing be used on small scale coppice work rather than using some big brute like this, which really is overkill for rods that are no bigger than about 1 inch diameter. So what I'm going to do today is give it a really quick experiment to see whether this thing is any good at all. The first thing I can see it's going to cause me a lot of grief is this ridiculous flappy thing here. It's a safety thing to stop you putting your hands in it and all the rest of it, and I get that, but you can buy these things off the shelf like you can any chainsaw, and this sort of becomes a single-handed use thing. So you, ooh, don't do that, you press and go. Well, that means then that your other hand tends to be used for gripping the branch while you're sawing, and I just think any hand near a chainsaw is asking for trouble. So they sort of try and market it as a two-handed machine, but I can guarantee that people will pick this up and use it as a single-handed tool, a bit like a pruning saw, and you just so that's my only gripe with this sort of stuff. But I'm going to have a quick go with it in coppice. I tell you what, this thing is unbelievable. One battery, which is a 5 amp hour, it's just gone flat. It wasn't actually fully charged, it was only on 3 dots on the charging indicators, and I've managed to cut nearly every single hazel stool. There's half a stool left, and then there's 3 chestnuts to cut, and that's it. I can't believe that, and it's done amazing. But that's the stools. I've not got the petrol chainsaw out at all. Let me have a look, see if I can show you. That's how low it gets to the floor. There we go, look. Give you an idea on size, this is supposed to cut 4 inches. I mean, that's about 1 3/4, 2 inches maybe. Cut that, no problem at all. It has got an inbuilt torque sensor, I suppose you might want to call it, where if it's pulling too strongly, the motor just cuts out and you have to just let go of your trigger, press your trigger again, and off you go. It won't press up because the battery's flat. But I was worried about getting my hands close to it, but at the moment I haven't managed to cut my hand off, which is always a bonus. If you ever get something like this, some sort of chainsaw pruner, I mean, you can get some really cheap nasty ones like £60. I'm blown away by it, really. We've got down to, there's a tiny little bit of oil in there, so on a full battery you are looking at about a tank full of chain oil with it. Now, this isn't one of those influencer style videos where it's like, you must buy this, you must press the link below, you must contribute to this way, X, Y and Z. It's simply about, when you see a good tool and you think, you know what, that really is worth recommending. Makita have got no sponsorship, there's none of that here. We don't do sponsorships. I bought this with my own money. Is it going to replace bigger saws? No, not really. I mean, let's face it, I am in some very small coppice. This has only been coppiced 5 years ago, so they're not big. I mean, if it's a 7-year rotation, I think something like this might just start to struggle. But anything like 2, 3, 4, 5-year rotations, or if you're cutting willow, or if you're doing lots of pruning, let's say. The thing is, I found, I mean, some minor observations so far. I did say I thought this would get in the way, and we have got some pretty big scrape marks because it's got this loose, that pin there is quite loose, and so you can see that way it does just wiggle. And of course, when you're pushing it in and against other stems, it pushes that up and it pushes it straight into the teeth. But I think it's because of the way I'm using it. If you're doing lots of pruning cuts and you were going downhill like that, I don't think that would be an issue. So at some point that is going to wear away. There you go. Tooltip Tuesday on a Monday. Just while we're passing this little coppice, this is one we cut, let me think, 2 years ago. So that was the first year growth, which is 5 foot, that's chest height. That was last year's growth, which is only 2'6". That's put on 4 foot, so that's 5 foot, it's 5'6" up to there, and then it's another 4 foot above that, 5 foot in places. You just gotta love Hazel when it does that. I'm amazed by it. I love it. All of this was ash. You might be able to see some of the regrowth here, look, and that's all suffering from ash dieback. And I have replanted, so here's some replanted. They haven't done ever so well, but looking at some of these as I'm just looking around, there are ones that are poking out the top of the shelters, so maybe they've done better than I thought. Just up and through there is what Hazel I cut, let me think, last winter, and I left some stems on that to layer across, and I did a little layer tutorial on one of the videos. They've come back really well. I was worried that I'd end up, or the munkjack might end up kicking the layers off and ruining it, but from the ones I've found, they've done fantastic. Layered in, rooted in, perfect. Managed to nip up the woods yesterday and Saturday actually to plant up the rest of my trees, so I managed to get all of the willow in, an apple tree in that I got given, and a couple of chestnuts that my dad grew, sweet chestnuts that is. Managed to plant them as well. It's rather satisfying to know that you've got all the tree planted. Planted some curly willow as well, so I might have been banging on about those for a few weeks. I've got to go in a minute because it's time to take Bella to the vets again, because her bum wasn't very well. The anal glands, or whatever they call it, which is rather gross, were blocked, so she got infected, and it was all a bit miserable really. But she's been wearing the cone of shame all week, and it's just a quick assessment at the vets just to make sure that things are healing as they should be. Good morning. Had to just pop into Rossist and get some logs loaded. That's another sale done. And now I've got to start chopping some of this charcoal wood into the trailer. So similar to what we did the other day, a bit of truncator action. That's the charcoal wood in the baskets. I'm glad about that. It is t-shirt weather today. It's unbelievably warm. It's almost barbecue weather. In fact, it's always barbecue weather. I spend the whole winter complaining about the weather, and then when it comes I think, oh, just stay a bit colder for just another week so I can get more winter jobs done. Got a little bit of storm damage there. I've got to just try and get this lot dressed this afternoon. I've also got to prep 70 hedge lane stakes, about 60 beam poles I think, and then some more hedging stakes for another order. Can't you not see I'm coppicing? South is basically straight up there. You see the sunshine up by the pine trees, and we are in full shade here, which means that those trees there, especially the pines, want thinning out so that sunshine can come through the larches. You just have to be a bit careful because prevailing wind comes from that direction straight this way, and if I took out too many pines, what you end up then is the larch become unstable and we'll end up with larch falling over. I've had this stump ages, and I thought, you know what, it's time for a new chopping block, and it's a little bit on the unstable side. It's a bit wobbly, so that I've got a bit of a more natural kind of waist height, and I'll use it for doing my beam poles, hopefully. We'll give it a road test. Got to be better than doing it. Feeling a little bit flat today. I was texting someone last night, old friend, and he'd had some bad news. Somehow it just affects you, doesn't it, a bit, when somebody gets bad news and you think, oh, you can't really help them. So I'd say my percentage is down to about 55 today. I just don't feel my normal self at all. And which brings me to, how are you? How's everything your way? And if you could give yourself a percentage today as you watch this, what would it be? And if you just want to do it in your mind, that's perfectly fine too. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So I don't feel like filming today at all. I'm just kind of forcing myself to switch the camera on and say something, so that at least I've got some footage when I come to do some editing. Right, where's my string? I think that's then. I've got a whole load of beam poles going out on Friday, which is great news because I'm just like, I'm getting stick anxiety on whether I'll actually sell my sticks or not. It will be back up here tomorrow with no distraction at all. We can get the rest of the hazel coppice cut, get it dressed, and then it doesn't matter if it doesn't get extracted straight away, but it would be nice. Good morning. What another stunner. Fabulous. Turns out that all my poles I put in yesterday, we've got loads of cancellations on the orders. It's not great, is it? When you think you're going to eat and then somebody snatches the food out your mouth. That's miserable. Ignore this big black box in the background. I inherited that the other week. Well, what would you use it for? I mean, there's a question for you. So I did wonder, do I want to compost this big at home? Probably not. Karen would have a baby if she saw what I brought home again. Let me know what you think anyway. There's nothing happening with it very fast, but I don't think it has quite the same look as a great big steel chainsaw slung over a lumberjack's shoulder. I had a quick look on these selling sites to find out what the current price is, and you can get them for about £160 as far as I can tell. This one doesn't appear to be in production anymore. They call it now the DUC 150, which is even bigger. It's got a 6-inch bar on it. 6-inch bar. Now we're talking. Anyway, we'll do some live action and you can let me know what you think. So I'm fully safety kitted up. Gloves, chainsaw trousers, chainsaw boots, which might seem rather overkill for such a little saw, but I'm trying to set the right example. If you're using a chainsaw, put your safety kit on. And now you notice I've not put my helmet on. Well, that's because there's not really a great deal that can land on my head at the moment. There's no high winds, there's no canopy, and I thought I'd put my LEGs on so that we can try and stop the wood chip going in my eyes. It didn't go in my eyes the other day, but of course we only get one set of eyes. There you go. I think it makes a really nice, neat, low cut. You've not got no petrol. When I think about the other day, this took me about an hour and a bit on one charge. That would have taken me probably a little bit less with a petrol saw, but even so, it's sitting there ticking over. So that might have been a tank full of fuel. I've not worked out the maths on the tank full of fuel. I'd love to know what the stats are on how much it costs to charge one of these 18-volt batteries, because these charge up in about 40 minutes. According to Makita, the charger that goes with these 18-volt batteries has a 240 watts output. Now, is that 240 watts an hour, which makes it about a quarter of a kilowatt? So if that is true, to charge one battery, it would take about 150 watts of power, because they charge in just over half an hour. If we ignore the standing charge that we get in the UK, which according to this is about 54 pence a day, ignore that for a minute, the price per kilowatt hour is 27 pence for a kilowatt hour. Now, if I was to use a quarter of a kilowatt, divide 28 by 4.
4 sevens are 28. So that means it's going to be costing me 4 sevens are 28.
Really? So it's going to cost me, according to that, and I don't know whether is that right? I mean, is that right? Does it cost 7 pence to charge one of these? That is insane. If that is true, please somebody corroborate my maths here. So let's just take that on the chin for a minute. That means that that's going to cost me between 7 and 10 pence to charge up, whereas a tank full of fuel in the petrol saw...
The tank size of my steel chainsaw is half a litre, so...
The current price of Aspen is about £25 a tank. Now I'm going to be getting 10 tankfuls out of that, which means that each tankful is costing me £2.50. So there you go, there's your comparison. I can charge that up for 10 pence, or I can do my saw for about £2-ish. I'll tell you what, that is a very, very interesting comparison. If ever there was an argument for battery-powered saws, that is it. If I'm going to be cutting in-cycle coppice, I already have made the decision that battery is the way forward for me, but this thing has just fully confirmed it. That is brilliant. Let me know what you think. I've noticed, which I think I'm right in saying, I wouldn't say it's a self-adjusting, but it's got a spring-loaded mechanism, so it sort of tensions itself. We'll get the tension to go loose on it. You just basically push the bar up, tighten that up, off it goes. As you can probably tell from the great big grin on my face, that it's just brilliant, honest. This is what we planted just as we bought the Woodlands, so the very first year all of this area down the bottom end was just this giant ride, and I don't need a ride at the bottom end that I'm never going to use. So it's had its first cut already. That was done about 5 years ago, and it's due its second cut now, and as you can see there are a fair few half decent rods in that. It's not all good, but it's okay, and gradually this will thicken up, get even more great rods off it. We're in the area that me and Matt were putting wood chip on the other week, but a few of the hazels just at that bit where I've just coppiced, some of those are coming into leaf now, and they were the hazels I got off Colin. So thanks Colin, they're doing really well. So battery's about flat, but we've just had a little bit of a technical issue which I've got to address. The self-adjuster thing has just jammed on me. We hit something, we had a bit of kickback. It caught the guard and derailed the chain, and now that pin, which I think is supposed to be a spring-loaded thing to put tension on the bar, push the bar that way, has seemed to have jammed on sloppy mode. They're not really built for everyday coppicing. You find their limitations. Right, bar and chain seem to be fine. It did just catch, you can see there, look, where the chain derailed and ripped the cover. That's not an issue for me really. Just cut it off with a knife, it's going to be a problem. I don't know if you've ever had these before. We're screwdrivers. I've had them for years and they are brilliant. No idea what springs are going to come flying out at me, that's the only thing. Got a feeling there'll be some sort of spring-loaded widget inside here. Right, so it's just that spring there somehow it got jammed on something. Can you see that? It's that little spring thing there. Got to get that tab on the end of the spring, force it back. Right, like that. So it gone all the way backwards and jammed it. That's good. Always wear gloves, of course. And I think always disconnect the battery. Make sure it still works. And the battery that I used this morning is 9 years old. So that's not bad. A 9-year-old battery can perform for nearly an hour of solid cutting before the teeth jumped and stopped us. There is that concern about what happens when it starts to rain. Can they stomach a good drenching? What happens when the motor gets wet? I have no answers to any of these questions, so it'd be interesting to know what will happen. And I'm 4 stools short of a full day. All sorted. I'm going to sort some firewood out now to sell, and then sort some bean poles out. So I'm going to do that. So that's another day of dressing that lot, which is going to push me now into next week, because I've got gardening jobs for the rest of the week now. So I guess we could do a little conclusion about my small nifty little pruning saw by Makita, the DUC 101. I think what it's told me is small scale coppice, hazel, possibly willow. I think battery power is the way forward, and maybe even for slightly longer rotations, maybe 10, 12, 15 year chestnut rotations and hedge laying. Definitely think battery's the way to go. Is this the right tool for commercial hazel coppice? Probably not. More of a toy than a tool, but it is handy, and I should definitely be using it a lot in the future. So if you've got lots of pruning to do, or some small scale coppice work, maybe this is the right tool for it. I think the reasons I worry about it, while I don't think there's a problem with the build quality, I don't think it's built for commercial scale. So something's going to snap on it eventually, because the snatch is what gets it. As you cut through and the stem drops, it drops onto the bar on the chain that's still spinning because you can't help it, and then that branch then catches the chain and it snatches it and stops it dead, and I think that's what will eventually kill it. Whereas if you're doing branch work, of course, if you're cutting down a branch, the weight of the branch pretty much opens the cut up, and then the branch falls away from you rather than on top of the cut. So I think it's just a peculiar quirk to the application I'm trying to get it to work for. But I don't regret purchasing that. I'll see you in the next couple of days, hopefully at the woods and not in a garden somewhere. Good morning. Charcoal is going. Been busy doing that so far this morning. Emptying barrels, filling barrels, getting things started, all of that. Sun's popped out to play, which is great. Had a little bit of rain over the weekend. Don't suppose you really wanted to know that. Another little job, just got to tick off the list. It's to do with blackthorn. If you've seen some of my previous vids, you'll know I can't stand this stuff. Now I know we like diversity and all the rest of it, and we love all that sort of stuff. Flowers, diversity, fruit, feeding the animals and the birds and all that. However, in such a tiny little woodland, I find blackthorn to be a complete and utter nuisance, because you get to this point where it becomes a thicket and then nothing else in and around it grows. I'm not asking you necessarily to agree with me, it's just my wood, my rules. what blackthorn does, you see, is it's known as suckering, and what you get is you get all the roots that come across the ground just underneath the surface. I can't even say it. And what happens is the ground warms up and it sends a new shoot. That's what's happened here. Look, the root's gone across, sends up a new little shoot. That just turns into another tree, and that happens all the time. It's absolutely mad how it does it. It's clever, but I don't want it. That's not too bad. It's got a few more out. Bean poles have been flying out. I think I must have sold nearly 200 last week, which was awesome. If you're ever in this situation where you've cut hazel and it's, well, we're in the third week in March now, and as the sap's rising, you'll notice that the buds are bursting. So there's enough sap in the rods to basically put this pretty much into full leaf. If that happens, the rods completely dry out. As you can imagine, I found out through experience. Okay, less talking, more working. Seatbelt warning lights because I've got charcoal as my passenger today. I've had to dash, time has caught up with me. Now we're on to taking Bella back to the vets. Hopefully she will be bottom clear now. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. Beautiful day. Thankfully we're almost done here. I had a hell of a job with that post there, with the whole zigzag arrangement. Right faff. I had a quick sneaky little cheeky visit to Kilworth Machinery to have a quick look at things I can't afford and wished I could. That's it, as far as I know. That is the last rod in this area, and quite possibly the last rod I'll be dressing this year. You might see those wispy bits there. They're going to be pleached over and used as layers because there's a few gaps in here where some of the stools have failed. But I've got to clear the decks, layer them, brash on the stools to some extent. I mean, I'm not going to go mad, but I just want to protect it from the muntjac. And I'm getting midged out here and I don't like it. It does my head in. Excuse me while I just have a hissy fit over midges. I think what the best thing to do is walk and talk. So gradually we're getting some really good in-cycle coppice hazel, and that is all my mission, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, to get the highest quality hazel in South Derbyshire, at least in certain parts. It's an ambition anyway. Have you got a little woodland goal or a woodland ambition that you'd like to raise the quality of or achieve a higher standards? By all means let me know, that'd be nice to hear. So I think that concludes the wood log for this week. Thank you again for watching. If you're able to, why not have a go at coppicing on electric? And I'll see you on the next one.